Welcome to the presentation on the Nadars 2024 Iota entry. So what's Iota? Well, I'm sure you all know Ireland's on the air. It's an annual international contest in the last weekend of July. Opportunity to activate as many islands worldwide as possible, and a lot do get activated. It's an RSGB sponsored contest. It's the RSGB's biggest and most successful contest of the year. So planning, well, that starts fairly soon. We'll start again in February, thinking about site location. We've gone operated from the island of Britain near to Newbury in the past. I'll come on to that in a second. Mostly the Isle of Wight. Then we have to think about what equipment we're going to use, who's going to transport what, who's towing the van, the tower. Sorry, who's taking the van, who's towing the tower, and generator as well. If we're taking one across, we have to consider any new equipment or antennas that we need to make. And once all that's done, we need to book the venue, book the generator if we're hiring one on the island, and book the toilets. And importantly, book the ferry crossings before, the later you leave it, it tends to get expensive. So we need to book those quite early if we can. Preparation, I get a monster file of all last year's logs. As you see, getting close to 500,000 QSOs. I analyze those and build a call history file, which is extremely useful in N1MM during the contest. Then George, 2E0FEC, gives me all the laptops, screens, keyboards, the router, everything needed, so I can preload everything and get it all fine-tuned. I also collect and edit 5 audio recordings for each operator to use on SSB to save their voices. Those are recorded or stored within N1MM and can be recalled with the function keys on the keyboard. Each operator has their own profile as well, so if they want the screen layout in a certain way, they can have it. I then check up the entire setup for both radios. Audio for SSB is important. Make sure that's the same for both. And all the other settings are the same. Check the IT connections and do an end-to-end test of the entire setup. Unfortunately, without the RF. So there's then obviously a final equipment checklist. We box and pack everything, load the van a few days before. Just make sure we got everything. One year we forgot an antenna rotator controller. Caused a few problems, but we got round it. Bit of a pain when you're already on the Isle of Wight when you discover that. At 10, I personally practice. If you're a CW operator, I highly recommend Morse Runner. It really does simulate contest conditions. Sometimes you'll get one station call and then sometimes 5. So it does actually represent a genuine contest. So why the Isle of Wight? Well, as you can see from there, the island of Britain is one island. The one I'm sat on at the moment talking to you on this. So Newbury's on EU 005. But the Isle of Wight, EU 120. And as you can see, every island that we contact is worth 15 points. Funnily enough, if we contact a station on EU 120, it's 5 points. But if we contact Tokyo or Tristan da Cunha, it's 15 points. And Southampton, 15 points. Newbury, 15 points. So it's very beneficial to operate from the Isle of Wight. Most stations know that G5XV operates from the Isle of Wight, so they're looking for us already. And you can see at the bottom there that there were close to 150 entries from mainland and just 4 from the Isle of Wight in 2023, which of course included our entry. So whereabouts on the Isle of Wight? Pretty much the north end. It's not far from Cowes. Little trip down to Newport, then back up again. And we're there. A little bit closer up, bottom of the screen, that's the actual farmhouse. Track goes past the farmhouse and very near to where we operate from. That track itself, over the years has improved greatly. It used to be fairly dodgy. So where that red dot is, a bit closer, that diamond shape, that's where we set up the antennas. It's north-south, which is great. It helps in terms of separating antennas. It's about 100 meters from the shoreline. There's a lot of salt water around. That brown bit to the west that you can see, that's sort of marshy. So it's quite saline, which we're always convinced gives us an advantage. Say reasonable access. It's got its own water supply and it's pretty flat. So here's a nice aerial shot of the area we use. You can sort of clearly see the field in a second.
City Compass, Golf 5, X-ray Victor on EU 120. Golf 8, Fox, Charlie, Quebec. Golf 8, Fox, Charlie, Quebec. You are 59, number 651 on EU 120. Oh, okay, thank you for the EU 120. 5929, 29, over. Many thanks for 29 QRZ, Golf 5, X-ray Victor on EU 120. Hotel Mexico Victor. Yeah, Roger. Mike Whiskey Zero, Hotel Mike Victor. You are 5 and 9, number 653 on EU 120. QSL, you're 59252, Echo Uniform 005. Roger, QSL, Golf 5, X-ray Victor on EU 120. The Tango Alpha Station? Golf India 4, Tango Alpha Juliet. You are 5 and 9, number 654 on EU 120.
As you can see, it's a lovely spot, right by the sea, and we have our own beach there. Very few people you'll see around. So who were the team this year? I won't read through all the names, but there was everybody. We all had a great time, all worked very well. So equipment, what I said is K3s, club's K3, we've got two, and my own K3 I take along. The SSB station was K3 with a kilowatt expert linear. CW station, a straight 500 watt linear, and another K3 for the spotting station. So setting up, well, the club's gazebos certainly come in very useful. That's why we had them in black. It's also handy when we have the rally, the demo tent or whatever. The screens don't suffer from daylight. So that's the two tents. As Colin, fiddling no doubt with one of the 40-meter antennas that he tends to set up. And on the right-hand side, that's me at the SSB station. As you can see, there's quite a bit to set up. Antennas on the right-hand side of the picture, nearer the mess tent. That's the main 90-foot, well, it's actually an 80-foot tower, but we have a stub mast on the top, which allows us to put a rotatable dipole above the beam, which sits at about 80 feet, and also an 80-meter broadband dipole. Station B, which is to the left, nearer to the front of the photograph. Nearest you can see is the 40-meter antennas. That's a 40-meter half square. There'll be a 40-meter loop, which comes off the mast. That's got a tri-band on it at about 50 feet. It's not as high, that mast. And in between the two masts, we support the off-center fed for 80 meters, which we use for the spotting station. So that's the Station B. That's the lower of the two masts. It's an ex-army contraption. There's not many of them in the world, I don't think, but it does work incredibly well. It looks like a rocket launcher when it's packed away, but it actually is very effective. And the main mast, the club's Strumec tower, so as I say, about 80, 90 feet. I haven't counted. That's about a 15 element beam. It works extremely well. The half square, it's good for low angle DX. You could make a difference. You could tell the difference when switching between the half square and the loop on some stations, on others not. but it's handy to have a couple of options when you're trying to pull a station out the noise. Building the antennas takes a while. It's a lot longer to build them than it is to take them apart. Basically, you wind the tower down in that position so the antenna's horizontal to the ground or perpendicular to the ground, and then gradually add the elements as you go and lift the tower as you go. IT connection, internet connection, it's always been an issue in the past. But with that log periodic, there's George making fine adjustments. We had a pretty flawless connection this year, probably the best we've ever had. So hopefully the days of poor connection to the world are gone, and let's hope so anyway. And that's that same field, and as you can see on the right-hand side is the setup. If you want to have a good look at it, you can pause this video, of course. You'll even see at the top there we have a shower with the water supply right near the mess tent, and there's an allocated area where we can all camp. And you can see where the stations are. The only problem this year was a big mistake. Generator was far too near the SSB tent, and the audio from the generator was getting into the actual being picked up by the microphones. That and many other things caused us problems on the SSB tent. For logging, we use M1MM. That's the default screen layout. As I said earlier, depending on who the operator is, they can position those windows wherever you like, whatever's convenient for you. The important one is probably sort of towards the right-hand side, the available multipliers. As you see, the blue ones will be new, well, the 15-point stations, and the red ones will be new multipliers. But they came through quite well. As you can see, there's quite a few sidebands on there as well. Quite a few SSB stations and a few CW. Spotting station. Now, we didn't manage to... It's been infrequent that we can use this, but we had enough people this time, so we thought we'd give it a go. Spotting station is fantastic for people, newcomers, and they're not particularly confident, perhaps, in running one of the main stations. But the spotting station can be very useful, picking up new multipliers, sending that data to the other computers, which, like on that previous screen, the operator can just click on it and work a new multiplier. Thank you very much. 15 points plus the multiplier. Anything that they feel is useful. But it's great for newcomers. So there's always something for everyone to do. Scoring, as I said, multipliers are really important. You can work, each multiplier is available for each first contact with any island on any mode. So obviously 5 bands, 2 modes, there's 10, maximum of 10 multipliers for each island. As I say, each island's 15 points, all others are 5. Once you've done that, you add up all your points and multiply it by the number of multipliers. So as I say, multipliers are key. Each new multiplier increases your score by quite a lot. So you've heard some SSB. This is what I love about CW. This is an excerpt of when I operated this year. So as I say, I love it. Great station setup, great antennas, much better than I've got at home. And you'll notice in all of that, there wasn't a CQ. They were just queuing up one after another. And very politely most of the time. Bit of a pile up in the middle, but as I say, great fun. So how did we do? Be honest, not brilliant. As I say, I think we just had so many issues with the SSB tent. Very frustrating. Um, so down, given it wasn't great conditions, so 10 meters didn't open at all, or very little. 15, not so good either. So conditions weren't fantastic, but I don't think they were any worse than the year before. So the SSB station, say, combination of it seemed to have poor audio from us, transmit audio, but not helped by having the generator noise coming across as well, and then some RF getting into. There's a lot of cables and wires everywhere, and you can see there the percentage of of contacts made last year compared to this year from the SSB stations is a long way down. I'd normally expect it to be 50-50, and in fact, probably more. SSB you can normally run at a higher rate. But before anyone says anything, on the right hand side, yes or no, 38 and 63 doesn't make 100, but there's roundings. That's why. So there's a list of the islands we worked, and in brackets is the number of contacts with each of those islands. Lots of ones and twos. As I say, you'll notice EU 005, 173. Some nice ones in there from Indonesia, the Philippines, and New Zealand, and then under Asia, a couple of Japanese. Overall, in our category, we came seventh out of 10. Not brilliant. We're normally up third or fourth. And I've highlighted the two stations there running 500 watts. It's not a, it doesn't prevent you from a good score. The difference between 500 watts and a kilowatt anyway. So they didn't seem to be hindered by running 500 watts. We got a certificate though. Anyone can download that, print it, stick it and frame it on, put it on your shack wall. So for next year, I suggest we go back to the basic 500 watts because I can then set everything up and have it all ready to go before we get there. This year, the SSB station was added at the last minute, if you like. We didn't have time to test it through. Be nice to have a rotatable 40-meter dipole for the CW station instead of the loop and half square, and our own dedicated 80-meter dipole for the CW station. We had nothing for that. We could use the off-center fed, but I found it easier to hijack the SSB station and do a bit of CW on 80. Obviously, in the evenings, there's a lot of EU 005 to work. Whether we can run both at the same time, not sure. Most of the time, I have an inhibitor that, well, it does, it stops two stations, both stations running on the same band. I can overcome that, but I'm not sure it's advisable to run that, but we will see. And of course, more members, you're all welcome. I was saying one year, I'm sure we had a sort of minibus. Maybe we could explore that again. As I say, you pay per vehicle, not per person on the ferry. Ferry's the most expensive part of the whole thing. But it's not all radio. Say the ferry crossing itself is great fun. The weather was fine. Graham and I are in short sleeve shirts. We do get out. I think that was the first night. We found a nice curry house in Newport. Otherwise, there's plenty of opportunity to sit and relax around the mess tent. And that's Quinn, G3WRR. And I can't remember the other fellow. They paid us a visit. They were running another station on the island. And he came and paid a visit. And we had a nice curry. Another curry. I think that was on the Thursday. I can't remember. And the beach, as I said, it's lovely. Go for a walk and clear your mind. Ready for the contest. Very kindly, the Isle of Wight Radio Society put on a barbecue for us. I'm sure that was on the Friday night before the contest started. They supplied everything, all the burgers and sausages and rolls, onions, the lot. And I think they said they'll do it next year as well, which is very kind of them. And the green tent you can see in both of those photos, that's the shower. Accommodation-wise, well, there's a B&B up the road if you want to spend more with all the facilities, or you can stay on the field for nothing. And if anyone wants to come along next year, I have access to multiple tents, being the quartermaster for my local scout group. If you come along, how much will it cost? Well, seriously, less than £100 if you're car sharing. That includes everything. So don't let cost be a problem. That's for we tend to get there Wednesday and leave on the Sunday. There's a nice photograph taken by Graham with the stars behind. And in fact, you can see it's not cloud, that's the Milky Way, I'm pretty sure. But then, of course, we have to take it all down. So if you've got any questions, please feel free to contact me via the group page or directly. You can get my details from the Nadars website. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.